Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a thinking three-star general, an author from the Indian Army, from New Delhi, India, Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, PVSM, YSM, SM. General Shukla, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Ashutosh. Thank you for getting me on your show. It's a great honor and privilege.
Thank you. General Shukla is the former Army commander for India. He's a writer, thinker, practitioner of strategic military affairs. So, we're going to talk today a lot about national security challenges. But before we get there, my viewers and listeners would love to know about your own journey and what got you right to the top.
So, Ashutosh, a lot of good luck. but I'm from a small but wonderful town called Lucknow.
Yep.
That's where I schooled. My father was in the Air Force. And it so happened in those days, there were 2 or 3 vocations. One of them was the Defense Services. So the first and the only exam I gave ever was for the National Defense Academy. I was lucky enough to get through 79, that was. And then I had, 44 years in the armed forces.
Wow.
So, I mean, I cannot do any comparisons because that's the only profession I know.
Correct.
But I do think that, it is one of the, I certainly think, so many may differ, the best profession currently going in India, and for a host of reasons. As you get into the armed forces, you realize it's not just a job or a profession, it's a calling. And that's the way you are groomed. That's the way you live life in the armed forces, where the spoken word matters more than the written word. You are guided not by some framework of morals, but a very strong ethos. There's a strong connect between men and officers. You honor their word, they honor your word. And let me also say, look, it's such a equal opportunity organization. We've had General Rawat, who was the chief and then the CDS. His father was a lieutenant general. He was the deputy chief of army staff. Just before him, we had General Suhag, whose father was a junior commissioned officer. Look at the equality. In the same army, a JCO's son rises to be the chief, and a lieutenant general's son rises to be the chief.
Absolutely.
It is extremely meritocratic. There are no caste divides, the other kind of divides that you see. For example, I get commissioned into a Sikh regiment, and 5 to 6 years a Hindu Brahmin, or even longer, I adopt the Sikh religion. I go to the Gurudwara, one learns the Granth Sahib, so that you adopt the religion of your troops. I mean, what a more noble way of doing things. So,
absolutely,
in its very conception and structuring, it is a very elevated profession. And look at the opportunities it gives you. So when you're young, it's about physicals, it's about adventure, it's about walking, running, leading your men. And as you rise, so as a commanding officer, you get to lead men into, in the most difficult of circumstances. I think we are the only profession in the world where on your spoken instructions, people rush to their death. Spoken instructions.
Amazing.
So it is, that kind of stuff. And then in the higher ranks, the challenges are about change. It's about shaping strategic military futures, getting technology, getting geopolitics. So, I mean, it's a very challenging profession. You spoke of, you mentioned just thinking general. Respectfully, I think it's an oxymoron, because what general if you can't think? So,
Yes.
The profession is a great, what shall I say? It's a place where brain and brawn converge.
Correct.
People who think that you don't have to study in the army or you don't have to have brains are thoroughly mistaken. As you rise to the top, you have to have a very sharp mind. You have to have an understanding of geopolitics, technology, international relations, all the other stuff that you need to do.
Correct.
Absolutely. In that sense, I think it's a real challenging profession. And as Ukraine tells us now, it's a game of cutting edge talent. It's about Elon Musk, Alex
Mm,
Carr.
mm,
So I would, encourage young, bright minds come to the armed forces. But I
mm.
would say, unless you're really bright and exceptional, don't come. This profession is not
Absolutely.
for you.
Very well said. And
I
you're
don't.
so
I hope
right.
I don't sound,
No, no, no. I mean,
giving a
I
smack of
completely,
hubris, but I'm just saying that it is a profession which is. And just one last point.
yeah.
As India now, we are what, the fifth largest economy, third largest economy to
Mm,
be soon.
mm,
Asian Power Index says we are the third most powerful country in the world. As we step up our game in national security, as it gets nuanced and sophisticated, we need even far more, bright and thinking minds.
correct,
So it is not only a profession for my generation, I think it's a profession of the future. The
correct.
brightest minds in national security will shape India's rise through Amrit Kal.
Absolutely right. Very well said. And I completely endorse and echo your thoughts because I grew up in an army home.
All right.
So, and so
That's
did my wife. So, we appreciate everything that the army does. And you're so right also, that I don't know who said it, but is that old line that every soldier carries a baton in his knapsack. So you're so right about equality in the army. But Jan Shukla, I want to now talk about some of the national security challenges. And my first question to you is how do you assess the current geopolitical landscape and its implications for India's national security? And what are some of the primary external threats?
so, before I come to our national security
Mm,
threats, opportunities, and challenges, just a word about geopolitics. And let me make just 2 to 3 quick points here.
sure.
My first observation is that, there was a time when Bill Clinton said it's the economy, stupid,
Mm,
meaning at the end of the day, all that mattered was the economy.
correct.
In recent times, may I posit that it is national security, stupid.
Correct.
Look at the way, look at Ukraine, look at West Asia, what's happening in Taiwan. So I'm not advocating a militarized kind of thinking,
Mm,
but I'm saying that geopolitics is extremely brutal. It is extremely unforgiving of those
mm,
that are disrespectful to national security. So
mm,
just let me give you three examples. Russia is a $2 trillion economy. The combined West, they are a $41 trillion economy.
mm,
Who is winning on ground?
mm,
Russia,
mm,
because they have leveraged the metrics of national security far more smartly.
mm.
Look at what's happened to Europe over the last weekend.
Correct.
I mean, their neglect of defense. I remember when I was a colonel and there was this talk of sending troops to Iraq and Afghanistan. Germany said, we don't patrol by night. So military is only patrol by day. Somebody said, we have no troops, we'll offer dogs.
Mm,
So that kind of disdain for national security has today put Europe in such a
mm,
sorry plight.
mm,
See what's happened to them. They are feeling abandoned. They are feeling paralyzed. Once Hexeth and Trump and company have told them that the Russian army is your business, not
mm,
ours.
mm.
This was neglect of national security, bringing mighty prosperous Europe to such a sorry pass. The
Mm,
third example, if I may give you, there's a town called Advika.
mhm,
Advika is a town in Ukraine which fell to the Ukrainians about 6 to 7 months back.
mhm,
I'm quoting the last director, CIA director William Burns of
mm,
the last administration, outgoing administration.
mm,
He said, that when we took this decision to surrender,
mm,
there was no lack of valor. Troops were there, they were willing to fight. But when we took a
mm,
stock we did a stock of the operational inventories of two Ukrainian infantry brigades.
mm.
One had 15 artillery rounds, the other had 44 artillery rounds. And he says,
Wow.
when I spoke to Lloyd Austin, my counterpart, the Raksha Mantri equivalent, he said, sir, we cannot recoup this ammunition before another 2 years. This is the mighty United States of America.
Mm,
USA today does not have 7 days of missiles and munitions for a fight in Taiwan.
wow.
China is churning out 10,000 cruise missiles a week.
Mm,
So look at this. If you're neglectful of national security, what
mm,
happens?
correct.
Just last week, the CNC IPACOM, Admiral Paparo, said that these exercises that the Chinese are doing,
Mm,
they are rehearsals for war. They
mm,
are concealing an attack. And this is the CNC IPACOM.
mm,
mighty USA is not unsure of its ability
Mm.
to protect Taiwan in a contingency. So look at this whole. I'm just pointing out to the need
Yeah.
to be very respectful of national security.
Mm. Mm.
That's one major geopolitical swivel,
Mm.
and in this backdrop, just look at our national security challenges.
Mm.
The first is the Chinese threat.
Mhm.
Now, see, look at this. The military component of the power differential with China is $450 billion annually. Let that sink in, please.
Yeah.
$450 billion
Mm.
annually.
Mm.
It is a PLA which has undergone the most massive military modernization in the history of mankind.
Mm.
And now look at it, 66 CABs, combined armed brigades along the LAC, 400 ship navy, shipbuilding capacity 215 times that of USA. I mean, look at that,
Mm.
215 times that of
Amazing.
USA.
Mm.
Somebody said that the world is an ocean and we
Mm.
don't have enough ships.
Mm.
They have rolled out, military hardened 5G along the LAC.
Mm.
They are swarming a lakh drones or a million drones. Now, these drones, along with military hardened 5G, will give you military robotics along the LAC.
Mm.
J-36, the stealth fighter that they turned out a couple of weeks back, or
Mm.
a prototype of it, that is the best machine that you have in terms of stealth.
Mm.
It has a radius of 3,000 kilometers, which means it can do anything in Southeast Asia all over India.
Correct.
Target Guam with refueling over Russia, target Alaska.
Mm.
It's scheduled for induction in 2032.
Mm.
And the Americans' next generation air dominance platform, their equivalent of sixth generation, is not going to be unveiled before 2037. This is the first time
Mm.
the mighty Americans in military aviation have fallen behind the Chinese.
Mm.
And this China is not seated in Latin America, it happens to be our neighbor.
Mm.
It is a real threat. And I mean, we really have to step up our game. We may be in a pre war era. We are lucky to have this peace dividend. We have to do a lot. So, the Chinese threat is one.
Mm.
Other big challenge before the Indian military is the changes that you are seeing in the character of war in Ukraine, the technological changes,
Right.
innovation changes. So they are
Mm.
not adversary specific, but just because the character of war is changing so humongously.
True.
So you have to make great strategic operational adjustments to the changes in character of war,
Mm.
take care of China. And now look at Pakistan. Pakistan, for the time being, may be diminished, but it is not only the beneficiary of Chinese collusivity, which actually means everything under the military umbrella that is possible,
Mm.
space, cyber, Baidu, they have the J-35, which
Mm.
is almost fifth generation
Yeah.
of the Chinese.
Mm.
And now they are benefiting from Turkey, drone superpower.
Mm.
Recently, Erdogan was on a trip of Pakistan,
Yeah.
Indonesia,
Mm.
Malaysia, talking about Gaza, unveiling military accords. So you now have Pakistan, China, and Turkey, which I would reiterate is a drone superpower.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the threat along the Western horizons. We have to turn to the seas now, as I said. It is getting late. If we don't
Mm.
turn to the seas, the Indian Ocean region,
Mm.
project power across Malacca, you'll have the Chinese coming into the IOR.
Mm.
And if this were not enough, you
Mm.
have these new national security realities emerging around Bangladesh and Myanmar.
Mm.
So look at, I cannot think of a nation
Yeah.
which does not have uh, a grimmer, if that's the right word,
Mm.
strategic or national security environment, which does not mean that, I'm saying that there is only a great deal to worry about. I'm just pointing to the
I know, I'm
reality.
with you.
We've done some good
Yeah.
stuff, but we
Mm.
need to do a lot
Much
more.
more. Yeah.
The national security consciousness has to grow. I'll just give you two examples.
Sure.
What should worry us the most?
Mm.
So December 2024, third week,
Mm.
there is a report which is turned out on the PRC and the PLA, which the whole world is reading.
Mm.
But where is that report coming from? It's coming from CISS, an American think tank, and Pentagon.
Mm.
Neighbor is China.
Mm.
India. There is a ASPI technology tracker,
Mhm.
which Australian Strategic Policy Institute, which tracks nations in their delivery in critical emerging technologies. Now,
Mm.
first, a bewildering fact and then the comment.
Mm.
So, 2003 to 2007, in 60 out of 65 of these emerging critical technologies, AI, robotics,
Mm.
autonomy,
Mm.
quantum, so on, America leads in 60 out of 65. No
Mhm.
surprises, the
Mm.
lone superpower.
Mm.
Then China gets into the act, the diaspora strategy, thousand talents plan. And 2019 to 2023, China leads in 57 out of 65.
Amazing.
Look at the dramatic conversion in technology leadership. But
Mm.
this fact is documented not by an Indian think tank, but by the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. So, my point is, unless we step up our game of ideation and national security, where will the action come from?
Correct.
We continue to lag.
Correct.
So, in terms of our threats and challenges, I
Mm.
mean, this is, I think, the right
No,
way.
this is an absolutely incredible analysis, and thank you so much for talking about it. But I want to, continue with the conversation you had on drones and technology. And I keep reading, drones, of course, is one. The lot of work is going on in the area of robotics. People are saying that cyber warfare is going to be the next one, and then there's the entire aspect of space. I'd love to get your perspective because China is way ahead. What are some of the threats there, and what are some of the things that we should be doing?
So, I look at it this way,
Mm.
Ashutosh. I would say it is AI and the emerging storm of
Mm.
technology. And all the, shall we say, military effects are taking place at the convergence of these technologies.
Correct.
AI, autonomy, robotics, space. So I'll also give you some, examples.
Yeah.
So a good place to start is Ukraine. See what happens there.
Mm.
In the initial days of the war, the Russians jammed the cables coming from the medium and high Earth orbit
Mm.
satellites.
Mm.
So you have no communications. The Ukrainians have no communications. And then they managed to not jam, but enfeeble the GPS
Signal.
system.
Yeah.
So you are in a GPS denied kind of environment.
Mm.
So what you lack is positioning and communications.
Mm.
Now, who steps in? Elon Musk. Space.
Mm.
LEO. LEO gives you both positioning and communications.
Correct.
Without positioning and communications, you can't have drones.
Mm.
So now, but once the drones come in, it is not only autonomy, it is robotics, it is AI, which is being built into these drone platforms linked with space,
Mm.
positioning,
Mm.
communication. And now look at the effects.
Mm.
So, Ukraine, a country without a navy, I mean, it's mind boggling. Without a
Mm.
navy, uses crewed drones, links them with Musk's Starlinks
Mm.
to knock the Black Sea Fleet out of Sevastopol, the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Look what technology is doing.
Mm.
In future combat, I have no doubt
Mm.
that the swarm of drones, if it gets into a dogfight with air crewed platforms, the pilots will be a liability.
Right.
No comment on the pilots, but the fact that's the way technology is changing.
Correct.
So the future of technology, if I may put it in one line, is exponential autonomy and declining costs.
Mm.
There was a time warfare was mass driven.
Mm.
Number of tanks, number of soldiers, infantry, number of guns, massed
Mm.
artillery fire. Then it became precision driven.
Mm.
So you could knock out Al Zawari while he was having his morning cup of tea in a flat
Mm.
in Kabul, or take out Suleiman of the, Muhammad Suleimani of the IRGC.
Mm.
Today it is precise mass.
Mm.
Drones, which are so precise that they can get through trenches, they get through tanks, and they are used as strategic air power. They are
Right.
used to take out the energy infrastructure, heating capacities in Ukraine.
Mm.
Energy infrastructure has been degraded by about 70%, heating capacities by 80%.
Mm.
So look what technology is doing.
Correct.
Alex Carr, let me give you another example.
Mm.
CTO or CEO of Palantir,
Mm.
a month after the war, tries to to create a link with Zelensky, doesn't get through for some reason. He drives to the Polish border with Ukraine and walks to Kiev. And once Zelensky hears of this, he invites him for a meeting, and Karp tells him, "Sir, just give me all your data, and I will give you AI-enabled services free." 2 years down the line, Karp has taken that data purely for commercial reasons
Mm-hmm.
and given the Ukrainians AI-enabled services in fire, maneuver, logistics. So an artillery shoot, which used to take 35 minutes, is now taking 5 minutes. Accuracies are increasing.
Correct.
Decision making is faster. So
Hmm.
look, I mean, I cannot tell you one technology, but I have tried to tell you what the AI and the storm of technologies, the
Correct.
combat effects that they are creating.
Very
So
interesting.
anybody who does not adopt these technologies,
Hmm.
I mean, drones are leading infantry assaults. Drones are leading armor assaults. The J-36 platform, when they are launched to attack Alaska,
Hmm.
they will be led by what is called a CAS, a collaborative aircraft system, which is nothing but a huge swarm of drones.
Very interesting.
So drones will lead.
Correct.
So that's the way warfare is changing, and we need
Absolutely.
to really
Absolutely.
invest in this domain.
One other perspective I want from you is on robotics, and I keep seeing films of robot soldiers, robot dogs now getting all over, driven by technology, where they're saying the human interaction may just disappear or reduce significantly. What are your thoughts, sir?
Absolutely. I mean, look at what the challenge is.
Hmm.
Today, say I'm a war fighter or a theater commander, I
Hmm.
still have the option of using AI tools with human intervention
Hmm.
or with human oversight.
Hmm.
But if I come up against an opposing commander who says no human intervention, I will just rely on the AI tools, I might win the moral argument. He will win the battle on ground because
Correct.
his cycles are going to be faster.
Yeah.
Now, these are the dilemmas. They are no, thoughtful dilemmas.
Hmm.
These are hard choices you have to make.
Very
If I
interesting.
stay in the loop, I
Hmm.
lose the war. If I uh, if I stay in the loop, I win the war. Sorry, if I stay in the loop, I lose the war. If I stay out
Correct.
of the loop, I win the war.
Correct.
This is the thing. The robots, these human robots, I'm told by
Hmm.
2035 or so, their numbers will exceed the human population. Every
Absolutely.
man will
Yes.
have a robot. You
Hmm.
see it in hotels in China. I have seen them. You see
Yeah.
them for, this anti-mining stuff. So while we are not quite there, the future of robotics is
It's going to
obvious.
be huge. Huge.
When we say autonomy, it's going to
Hmm.
be drones, robotics, and all this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I also want to get your thoughts on, we have a strategic partnership with the United States. We have our all-weather friend, Russia. We're beginning to thaw in our relationship with China. What are these kind of relationships at the political level going to, what kind of impact will they have on our national security?
So let's take them one by one. China,
Absolutely.
my view is that,
Hmm.
I mean, this is just a temporary thought, or
Yeah.
it's a reprieve. It
Hmm.
is certainly not a long-term peace.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason. It is my understanding that the Chinese are very clear. There's going to be one tiger on a hill. Even when
Correct.
Prime Minister Modi signed that agreement with the President Xi in Kazan,
Hmm.
if you go through the readout, India said multipolar world, multipolar Asia.
Hmm.
China said multipolar world, but they kept quiet on Asia.
Yeah.
They are very clear it's one tiger on a hill. So
Hmm.
my own understanding is that for the first time in history, you have the world's number one and three economies in PPP terms
Hmm.
growing in close proximity, no Himalayas, no
Hmm.
buffer like Tibet.
Hmm.
Our geostrategic trajectories are bound to clash. Now,
Right.
does that mean war? No.
Hmm.
If we deter them sufficiently by investing in all the things that we spoke about, if we can find the monies, if we can innovate, if we can 2025 is the year of MOD reforms. If we can do real, meaningful, widespread reforms, the Chinese are not illogical players. They will
Correct.
back off.
Hmm.
So deterrence will make China back off. Just good words and diplomacy will not. In fact, diplomacy must ride on a strong military foundation.
Correct.
Those together will keep the Chinese off.
Hmm.
As far as the other three are concerned, so We do need, arms, though we are doing this Atmanirbharta stuff, it's very good. We have these two steadfast allies, Russia and France. They have been very reliable in the past.
Mm.
America was the new opportunity till Trump came in. Now,
Mm.
Trump is unpredictable. He's very transactional. He'll make us, do link everything that he gives with something. But here we can strike a hard deal with them. And what is the deal with USA? So while we get our legacy platforms from Russia, France, whatever partnerships are going, we've signed some stuff even when the Prime Minister was,
Yeah.
with President Macron in Paris recently
Yes.
in the area of AI, these SMRs, these nuclear reactors, so on and so forth. What Look at one success we've got with the Americans. It is this ISET, this US India Initiative on Critical Emerging Technologies, with Indus X, which is about innovation, which is basically about private sector collaboration between the ecosystems in India and USA in defense and innovation in defense. Now, you had one startup called Bharat Semi, Indian startup, who's got orders from US Space Com on semiconductors.
Mm.
So, with the Americans, if we can explore this partnership further and expand from semiconductors to other domains,
Mm.
robotics, quantum, so on and so forth, that is one way to leverage the Indo US relationship. So, you have these partners of the past. They've been very good friends like Russia, France for our legacy platforms. Future technologies could be US, but all this is no substitute to Atmanirbharta and defense. And there
Correct.
the good news is private sectors and startups. If you ever visit some of these startups, they are doing very well. All that they need is encouragement through orders, orders, and orders.
Correct.
And that if our, bureaucracies can get a little fast on giving these orders and fire up the
Yeah.
ecosystem. So you have Atmanirbharta and defense firing up, you have technology links with the US and
Mm.
your legacy partners, Russia and France. And if our economists can, show some statecraft and find monies for defense,
Correct.
we will be able to deter China. Why not?
Mm. Amazing. And if it comes to India versus China for the US, given the transactional nature of President Trump, where do you see US vis-a-vis these two countries?
Yeah, so see, Trump is a very difficult character to predict. But
Absolutely.
look, if you look at some of his advisors, Elbridge
Mm.
Colby and so on and so forth, they have been advocating that the American, look at this, I'm quoting to you George Yeo,
Mm.
a Singapore
Singapore,
diplomat.
yeah, I know him, yes.
He's quoting a Chinese diplomat in
Mm.
turn who's telling him, Ki George, whenever we are in trouble, we the Chinese, the Middle East comes to our rescue. And look exactly what happens.
Mm.
You see, 1990 to 2010 is
Mm.
the time the PLA really grew in quality and quantity.
Mm.
It was the time the Americans were, they had put their hand into this strategic beehive in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right.
And 2017 or so, 18, 19, when once again, the pivot to Indo-Pacific is to be strengthened, first Ukraine interrupts and now the Middle East. And all this time is now being made use of China to do what they have done in the first Thailand chain. Now, let me give
Mm.
you one small example.
Right.
Look how things have changed in the first Thailand chain, Taiwan.
Mm.
1950, Mao is waiting on the coastline just to get across to Taiwan.
Mm.
100 miles, no big deal. And the Americans come with their Seventh Fleet. 58, a similar attempt is made. This time the Americans threaten a nuclear strike.
Mm.
1995, Clinton sends 2 aircraft carriers. Then the Chinese say, all right, enough is enough. A2AD, anti-excess area denial.
Mm.
They put in this humongous instrument of long-range precision based on rockets, space, cyber, so on and so forth.
Mm.
And today, all that IPACOM commander can offer is no aircraft carriers, but Hellscape. What is Hellscape? Autonomous systems.
Mm.
The military advantage is decisively with the Chinese. Now, here comes in Trump. I don't see Trump willing to shed blood
Mm.
for Taiwan.
Correct.
It is not in his transactional nature.
Yeah.
And if Xi does a deal with him and says, Mr. President, let's see reason. We have our military power in the first Thailand chain is far greater than yours.
Mm.
Let's do a deal on Greenland and Arctic.
Mm.
Get what you want in the Atlantic. Retreat
Mm.
to your corner of the Pacific.
Mm.
I suppose a very transactional Trump, unless he, defies
It,
logic once
as the
again.
Americans say, it could be an offer he may not refuse. But I've got time for one more question, sir. You've given us some amazing thoughts for us to ponder over and listen to about the national security challenges. But as a country, we are also faced with a lot of internal security challenges, which I know takes away a lot of time of the politicians as well as all our other defense forces, including the Indian Army. What are your perspectives?
So, see, internal security, of course, we must never be neglectful of internal security.
Hmm,
But I think in the last 10 years, if there is one domain in which we have done rather well, it's internal
hmm,
security. This business of these new normals in our strategic outlook, Balakot, Kailash, they have sent a message to adversaries not to mess with us.
hmm,
So I think a great deal of good has happened in J&K. I'm not saying that
hmm,
threats
hmm,
have disappeared. There could be fresh challenges in Punjab. This whole
hmm,
problem of drones, some
hmm,
separatism in Punjab. I wouldn't say the northeast, but the borders, instabilities from Bangladesh, instabilities from Myanmar. Look at Myanmar with the Janta receding in terms of influence and control. The Three
hmm,
Brother Alliance is expanding. It's got deep links with the Chinese.
hmm,
Look at some of our neighbors. Many of them see the tilting power balance towards China and are
hmm,
making their choices accordingly.
hmm.
So, in the periphery, in our internal security, these challenges continue to remain.
Right.
While they have reduced, they have greatly diminished because of the emergence of a strong center and a strong state.
Hmm.
We cannot be neglectful of them. And
Correct.
there are other issues like lack of jobs, and so on and so forth, which, if not treated well in time, they lead to unrest, discontent, instability, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So, I mean, external security, of course, is a huge challenge, and
Absolutely.
internal security is also something that we cannot look away from.
Absolutely. And on that note, General Shukla, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. I think this has been not just an amazing discussion, but an eye-opening discussion. Uh, I'm a great believer in the army. I'm a great believer in everything that is happening. But I think some of the pointers you have given will make a lot of us sit back and think. You spoke about national security challenges. You spoke about the three, four big players: China, Russia, America, France. You also spoke a little bit about internal security challenges. Thank you for speaking to me and all the very best to you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for the opportunity. All the best to you and to your brand. The brand called you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.